Thank you, Nissan. So yes, a little bit of introduction from my side. My name is Sobani Mutlamelo. I'm one of the founders of Hyperion. I studied computer science at the University of Cape Town. I'm originally from Lesotho, and I'm currently permanently based in Cape Town. So another bit of admin also for those who might be struggling with sound or audio. At the top right corner of the presentation screen, you will see an audio or sound icon. Please make sure that at any point in time you don't click that, because otherwise you will mute me and so you won't hear any sound coming from my side. Furthermore, if you look at the top of this chat room, there should be a little section there which says, struggling with audio or video. If any of you guys are struggling with that, just click that, and that will help you troubleshoot any sort of audio or visual problems you might be having. Otherwise, we should be all good to go. And so just a bit of, so we will try to keep this presentation as short as possible and as informal as possible. If at any point in time any of you guys have any questions, feel free to type it in and then I'll happily answer it. But apart from that, at the end of the presentation, everybody will get a chance to ask whatever questions they have, and I'll stick around for a couple of minutes just to make sure that we answer all questions. So with that out of the way, we can get right into it. So yeah, today we'll be talking about, coding as a career. So first of all, one might have a question: why should I study coding? What's coding all about? So don't worry, we have got you covered. We will try to dive in more in terms of what that means and what that means, changing the career into coding, what it means for you. I mean, so we'll look at that in a later slide. But apart from that, we'll be looking at, why switching to coding, obviously demand for jobs, tech jobs, some earning potential there. And oh, okay, Sandy, so if you cannot see my screen, please just make sure that you have your bandwidth adjusted from low to high, because sometimes if it's on low, then you might just hear the audio. But apart from that, as I mentioned earlier, please look at the top of the chat room, click that, and then that might help you resolve that issue. And if there's anyone else struggling, please just type it in and then we'll try to resolve it. But yeah, and then we'll also try and look into how to make a switch into the coding career and how Hyperion development can help you do that. Oh yes, Ruan, that's correct. I am not showing my face. It's just the screen, the presentation screen. Thank you for that. Okay, great stuff. So let's get right ahead. So yeah, I mean, the common question would be why should I change career into coding, first of all? So I think at this point in time, the one thing we can all agree upon is that, technology is quickly consuming the world. I mean, we are affected by technology on a daily basis. Our operations, even the way business is run, it's all tech, right? I mean, let alone everything is digitized, in these days. And I think at this point in time, you can all agree that probably in a few years, probably less than 10 years actually, it is going to be rather mandatory for everybody to have some sort of digital skills, knowledge, one way or another. And it doesn't matter which profession you are, which field you are in, but you are going to have at least some sort of digital skills, either it be coding, digital marketing, whatsoever, you name it all. Great stuff. And apart from that, we can also agree that with that being the case, that simply means there's so much demand of developers throughout the spectrum. I mean, in health, in finance, in software, in marketing, in almost everything. So, okay, so it seems like a lot of people are having a bit of confusion here. So Patrick, the webinar has started already. At the moment, we'll just try to go through a couple of slides, trying to address specific aspects. And then at the end of the presentation, everybody will have an opportunity to ask whatever questions they have, and then we'll try to respond to them accordingly. Okay, great stuff. So there's that as well. So I mean, there's so much huge demand for software developers right now as we speak. And apart from that, coding or software is one of the few careers or one of the few fields that could actually enable us, one, to bypass the traditional way of learning. And by the traditional way of learning, I mean your typical 3 or 4 year degree as a computer science or software engineering or whatever the case could be. And, allow you to bypass that and immediately unlock a life-changing career that could actually change your life and the life of your family with a very high or huge earning potential. So that is one of the few things that I think at this point in time we can actually all of us agree on at the moment. Apart from that, just looking at the stats in America, where we just try to use the USA as a benchmark, according to the US stats and Glassdoor as well, 7 out of 10 of the best jobs in America are actually in tech. So it doesn't really matter where you are in the world. What that says to you is that there's so much, such a huge opportunity just looking at that. And if I was someone who wasn't in tech, what that would say to me is that okay, now is actually the best time to try and switch into tech or to try at least equip myself or invest in in some tech skills knowledge or training. So there's that as well. And then looking at South Africa as well, according to my broadband as of last year, mid this year as well, in South Africa, 6 out of 10 of the rarest skills are in software development. So that also in itself, it says it doesn't matter where you are, there's such a huge opportunity there for you becoming a developer and, unlocking a life-changing career. So moving right ahead, also as I mentioned about the earning potential, we look at the senior developers. So this is just in the US dollars across the board. As you can see here, as a senior developer, you could expect, an earning potential of between 100K to 150K. So and yeah, so as a senior developer, I mean, typically a senior developer would be someone with at least 3 years experience in a very high tech environment or as a developer. So, and it actually 3 years is actually not a lot, not a lot of time. So that means if you could start learning how to code it, as early as possible, then even before you know it, you could actually acquire the senior developer status. So that's just for senior developers. And I mean, as you can see here, as an entry-level job or as a junior dev, you take almost about half of that, which is still pretty good, especially looking at South Africa. I mean, that's a very huge opportunity. And let alone if you can actually be able to acquire those kind of skills within a couple of months without having to go through a, redundant 3 or 4 year degree. So there's that as well. And at this point in time, probably some of you are wondering, so with that in mind, where should I start? What should I learn? So here we're just gonna look at some of the core programming languages and the popularity and their ranking. As you can see, we try to compare 3 different indexes here. According to TOB, you can see Java is at the top, with Python being the least at fifth there. And for some reason, C++, and C# keep popping up here and there. Then according to PyPL, as you can see, Java is still at the top, with Python being the second, and then PHP and so forth. And then RedMonk actually has JavaScript at the top, with Java being second and Python and so forth. So what we can see from this is that across the spectrum, Java, Python, and JavaScript are sort of taking the lead. So that simply means if you have no background in computing or programming at this point in time, a pretty good place to start would be trying to learn Java, JavaScript, or Python, as those are some of the very highly popular programming language and actually used in almost every industry or every company. So of course, yeah, with bits and pieces of C++ and C# here and there, but I mean those are some of the stuff that you can actually acquire along the way, as probably also the way they are set up, they could be a little bit intense or rather complex for a first-time programmer. So yeah, at this point in time, if you're actually thinking of starting out as a coder or as a programmer, Java, Python, and JavaScript would be a pretty good place to start. And the good thing is that we actually have all those in our offerings, which we'll get onto a little bit later. So yes, with that in mind, we also try to look at the earning potential of any kind of software developers. It doesn't matter whether you're a web developer, software engineer, or mobile apps developer, any of those. So if you look at this graph here, we see that the US still takes the lead with 90K there and kind of K at the bottom. But we try to look at some of the high tech countries, or some of the countries which have cities that are very tech oriented or tech savvy. So across the board, you see there's Norway there, there's Sweden, there's UK, Germany, and so forth. This simply means you know it doesn't really matter where you are in the world, but as a developer, irrespective of which stream you're in, there's a very huge opportunity for you in that regard. I mean, in software development as a career, just in terms of the earning potential, whether it be entry level job, intermediate, or senior dev. So I think with all of these, I think at this point in time, I would urge most of you, if you are not already in the tech world, to actually start thinking about it. And we'll also look into South Africa, as most of us here are from South Africa. As you can see, Cape Town, there's always been an argument, I know, between Cape Town developers and Johannesburg developers. Lots of articles and blogs, people arguing, Cape Town is the best to be in as far as, the dev career is concerned. Some would say, some would argue that Johannesburg, so we try to gather the annual median salaries of developers in these respective cities, and you can see Cape Town is still at the top with about 293K and 191, and Johannesburg sitting at 274,957. But the difference or the gap is not really, it's not really as high. So I guess in South Africa, it doesn't matter where you are, as long as you are in either Cape Town or Johannesburg, you are still in a pretty good environment to actually start a very decent career as a software developer there. And if you guys have any questions in this regard as well, we will be happy to actually have a discussion later on at the end of the session. So now we have spoken about why switching into a career in coding is very important at this point in time. Now the question is then how does one change, or how does one switch into a coding career? Well, of course, there's lots and lots of MOOCs and online platforms out there that could teach you how to code, with video-based content, everything for free and all that sort of thing. But the problem is not all of them are actually, convenient for everyone or can actually meet everybody's needs. So that being the case, we are going to try to dive more into how HyperionDev can actually, get you closer into a career as a coder. And so that being the case, we have in software development there are about three or four main streams. So and we are just going to look at the three top ones, which is web development, mobile development, or software engineering. And the good news is that we actually offer three of those as a very fully comprehensive bootcamp. So at Hyperion Development, we have the full stack web developer bootcamp, the mobile developer bootcamp, and the software engineer bootcamp. The other two I'll get onto in the upcoming slides. So looking at the full stack web developer right now, our bootcamps actually is a combination of three courses, or rather three levels, taking you all the way from beginner, intermediate, right through to advanced. So just looking at what we have in our full stack web developer bootcamp, we start out with the beginner course, which covers PHP and some web development essentials. So this course is pretty good for first-time programmers or even developers who haven't actually been exposed to web development. So it covers the fundamentals and the basics of web development. As you guys all know, PHP has been existing for quite a long time, and it's been popular, web scripting language. So that will introduce you to web development. And then moving right across, you, as a subsequent course, would get into introduction to web development, which is an intermediate. And this is where you would learn, some of the popular front-end stacks such as HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and so forth. And this would take you from the basics all the way to the intermediate level. And also start learning how to actually optimize your sites, how to make them fully functional, how to make them as user-friendly as possible, using JavaScript and some of its libraries in that regard. And the last course in that path would be, we call it the full stack web developer, which is very advanced. This is where you put it all together. This is where you learn dynamic website, data driven, learning how to integrate websites or web applications with your websites, and you also learn about some frameworks. But the one popular framework that we actually use or encourage is Django, due to its stability and scalability, sustainability and maintenance in the long run. I mean, there's a lot more that others might know of here right now, but Django is one of the most popular ones, and that's the one that we actually offer through our web development bootcamp. So at this point in time, you'll also learn a lot more about servers and how to now actually host and integrate everything, put it all together and make your stuff live. So that's the full stack web developer bootcamp, and you will learn pretty much both, end to end of the spectrum, front end and back end. And at this point in time, I also want to highlight that web developers, let alone full stack web developers, actually at the top of the ladder in terms of earning potential as well. And they are the most in demand, as you can imagine. Each and every existing business wants to have an online platform, as that's the better way to engage with their customers or potential clients. So that's another very huge opportunity there as well. And then next we have the mobile developer bootcamp. So this is pretty much very Android intensive. Unfortunately, we haven't moved into iOS as yet. And we have actually built this course rigorously in partnership with Google. As you can see there, at the end of this course now, you are eligible to actually sit for the Google certification exam, which will then turn into an associate Android developer. So in a similar breath, it consists of 3 courses, or 3 levels rather, starting out with Java programming essentials, also designed for first-time programmers. And the reason Java here, as most of you might know, Java is very good for Android. I mean, it's used actually very much in the Android development. It's very good for someone who wants to move into Android or mobile dev to actually have some basics in that regard. So you'll start out with Java programming essentials, then move right into introduction to mobile. That's where you'll learn a whole lot of Android, setting up the whole stuff, emulators and all. And then on the advanced side of it, you will then learn how to put everything together as well, building rich mobile applications, learn how to actually host it, learn how to integrate the database and all that stuff, learn how to host your app, either Google Store, Google Play, or whatever the case could be. So and the mobile dev bootcamp actually gets a little bit more intense because we have tried as much as we can to align it with the Google standards, as the Android is actually their operating system, and let alone Android is one of the most used OSs for mobiles. So I think if anyone is interested in becoming a mobile developer, starting out with Android development would be a pretty good place to actually position yourself in that regard. And also, another interesting thing, or rather important thing, is that mobile developers are very scarce. For some reason, I don't know why, but I know in South Africa, it's very hard to find someone who's well-versed in mobile development. I mean, let alone in both iOS or, all other platforms, Windows or Android. So that simply means there's another huge opportunity there. If you are a mobile developer, I mean, you'll be in so much demand. So that means another gateway through to your life-changing career there. And then we have software engineering bootcamp. So this is pretty much in a similar manner, consists of 3 courses or levels: beginner, intermediate, and advanced. So the beginner course, we call it Introduction to Programming, which is pretty much done in Python. And this is still very good for first-time programmers or beginners. It introduces you to basics and fundamentals of programming as a paradigm, starting to put you in the right mind of a coder, exposing you into some of the best practices and so forth as far as coding is concerned. And then you're moving right across to the intermediate. You will then learn, intermediate concepts in Python, Java, and C#, which are at the top. I mean, which are currently the top 3 most popular languages, but excluding JavaScript, as JavaScript is web. So, and then moving straight right across. So these, you will not just, learn the theory or the syntax of each language, but you'll also learn a whole lot more about the whole software engineering or software development cycles, version controlling such as Git, some of the best practices, Agile or Scrum and so forth. And at the end of the day, you will actually become a fully fleshed out software engineer who's skilled in not just one language, but, quite a diverse breadth of three languages. So that's quite a good position to actually work as either a Python developer, a Java developer, or a C# developer. And I should highlight here as well, for some reason in South Africa, I know C# developers actually paid some of the most paid in South Africa, especially in Johannesburg. In some other parts of the world, like the US, Java developers, and in the UK or European market, Python is starting to pick up. So that's just an idea. You are equipped in all three languages, then that means it doesn't matter where you go in the world, but you'll be pretty good to go. So yeah, that's what we have as fully fleshed out boot camps. And now I just want to dive a little more into, we have what we call boot camps preparations as well, boot camps prep course. So this is just a way of allowing everybody who gets right into it to start away and sort of try to get a taste of what each boot camp entails. And so diving a little bit more into that, the bootcamps prep courses pretty much allow one to start coding, and even much more importantly, to actually evaluate whether a programming will match their needs. Well, the fact is that at the bootcamp preparation course stage, students will not necessarily, get the full mentor support experience, but they will get a taste of how mentor support is provided by HyperionDev, as at each and every section in bootcamp preparation course, you will have opportunities to submit your code for review, and then our course consultants or some of our mentors will actually start giving you some of the tailored feedback right there. So these also help. So moving into straight, so for example, the web developer bootcamp course prepares you to actually build your first website, which would work as an online portfolio using HTML and CSS and so forth. And the mobile dev bootcamp prep also, prepares you to start using Android official ID, start learning how to design and create attractive user interfaces for mobile apps, and you will actually get into XML right there as well. Start learning about practices and guidelines for, mobile apps, user interfaces, designs, and so forth. And then the software engineering bootcamp prepares you, introduces you to the whole coding paradigm or programming in Python, learning the fundamentals of how to write code, because, in coding, it's not just about putting code together, but there are some of the very important aspects or attributes standards that one needs to keep in writing code. So that is how the actual bootcamp preparation courses are designed, and that's what they are meant to do. But as I mentioned earlier, the important thing is that when you go through the bootcamp prep course, this allows you to actually determine whether that specific stream, be it web, mobile, or software engineering, your needs, further down the line. So at that point, in assistance with your mentor or one of our consultants, you can then decide which path to actually take based on your career goals or your future aspirations. So that's what we have going on there. And then, so with Hyperion, one of the most important things that we actually care a lot about is career guidance and career advice. A lot of people want to switch careers, but they are not so clear of where to start or how to go about it. So we have consultants. We always have consultants happy to advise better in that regard based on your current experiences. So as you can see, we have Andrea Smith there, who's probably also part of this webinar. And then that's me there. Every time, any day, just give us a call or drop us an email at sales@hyperiondev.com, or even conveniently just go to our website. We have a live chat service there. Just drop us a message, and then we'll jump right onto it in terms of trying to understand what you're looking for, what are your current experiences, and what are your career goals, and then we'll be able to help map out a relevant learning path for you, or rather specific bootcamp in that direction. And so now the question is, we've spoken a lot about what Hyperion, what we offer in that regard. Wondering then, why should I then switch with HyperionDev? First of all, I've mentioned that there's millions or thousands of other online coding bootcamps, but not all of them are actually convenient for everyone. So without wasting any time, so at HyperionDev, we believe in flexibility. So there is no preset or predefined working hours or stuff like that. Your bootcamp, actually, you set your own pace. Your bootcamp is built around you. We will uniquely pair you with a one-on-one mentor who will then work with you according to your schedule. Most of our courses or most of these, online short bootcamps are actually taken by full-time employed people whom we understand they don't have all the time. So that's where that flexibility comes in. The course is actually set up around you, around your schedule, whenever you're available, but your mentor will be with you every step of the way. And next up, it's part-time. You don't have to in this course or always sitting in front of your computer. So that means it allows you to just your career or your current role and the course itself. And as I mentioned, the mentor actually works around your whole schedule. So you don't have to worry about being, on the computer at specific times or all the time, but it's just a matter of whenever you are available and you've got the time to actually do some work. And lastly, it's online. I think this is one of the most convenient ones because now it's online. What that means is that anyone from anywhere around the world can actually take a course with us. Lots and lots of boot camps. Some of the big boot camps out there are actually physical boot camps, which require you to go to a specific campus, either on a daily basis or on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. But the fact of the matter is, there is transport cost involved there. There's a whole lot of other factors that come into play and are not otherwise convenient for anybody. So that means you can take our courses from the comfort of your home or from the comfort of your office or on the go, wherever you are, So those are just the three key factors that we believe HyperionDev can provide in that regard in helping you switch to a coding career. And lastly, just to dive in a little bit more of how it works. So as I mentioned, at the beginning, you actually work very closely with a course consultant in trying to understand your experiences and try to map out a suitable bootcamp or learning path for you in that regard. And once that stage is passed, you will get paired up with a one-on-one mentor who will then be working with you on a daily basis as you submit your code. They literally review your code very quickly on the same day. And this allows you to actually iterate through your solution and try to help you optimize your code, how to make code readability, how to make it efficient, how to use best algorithms and so forth. So, and most platforms actually have integrated, machine learning or have automated the assessment or feedback mechanism. But the truth of the matter is, I won't lie, I'm a tech guy myself, but I believe, when it comes to education, machines will never replace humans. And, we believe that actually high quality feedback that you're meant to provide, no machine learning, system or platform could actually provide at that level. So that is one of the key factors there. And this helps most of our students to be industry ready when they get out of our courses in terms of how they structure their code and their code standards. So so on number 5, and then at the end of the course, we also try to offer an ongoing career support and guidance. We have what we call Hyperion Careers, which is integrated at the back of our site. So this is where companies actually post some of their open roles on our platform, and then we distribute them across our student networks or our graduates. And what happens is that we would then recommend you to create a profile on our careers portal immediately upon completion of your course, and then you would work with one of our consultants as well in helping you shape up your CV, how to write a technical CV, mock interviews, and trying to match you with some of the advertised jobs on our platform. So just to highlight here, at this point in time, we are not a recruitment or placement agency, and we do not guarantee a job, but we do our utmost best to actually try help you and still be with you every step of the way in your job search. And as I mentioned, so you would then just create, your profile there, and then working closely with one of our consultants in that regard. So that's what happens. And Michael, yes, these will be recorded and to be published at a later stage, so you can actually go back and replay it if maybe you have missed some of the aspects. So, and also we have our YouTube channel where we have a small video there that sort of explains how. So if any of you guys are interested or would like to actually understand the whole process, simply go to YouTube, search our channel. You can see HyperionDev, and then you can listen to our video at the end. Some of these webinars or info sessions will actually be uploaded there for future reference. If any of you guys want to play back or share with your friends and stuff like that, they will all be on our YouTube channel.